Laniata. It's a subspecies of Monstera Adansonii that is prized for its extremely large leaves. You see, the Adansonii that you get from your local nursery, whether it is round form or narrow form, it can get large, but it will never grow to the size that Laniata leaves can reach. These leaves will get absolutely massive. Now, if you happen to live in a home that is many stories high, you can grow this as a single vine to get insane sized leaves. But for the rest of us who don't live in mansions, the way to get giant leaves is to grow your plant out and then take cuttings of the top of the vine to start the plant over with the large leaves. You then grow out those top cuttings, and once it reaches a certain height, you repeat the process of taking its top cutting and starting the vine over from the bottom. Continue that process over and over for years, and you will eventually have massive leaves that are literally larger than you are. Now, I know many people are afraid to cut their big plants, but you certainly don't need to be. The best thing about taking top cuttings is that the original plant will then push out new growth from its lower growth points. So it's kind of like the hydra. You cut off the head, and two more grow in its place. That's true of all aroids. Here's an example. This is the Cebu blue that I featured in my last video. I cut the top of the vine off and secured it to a larger totem. Here is how it looked in March. And here is how it looks 6 weeks later. It is fuller because cutting off the top of the vine literally activated 4 lower growth points to produce new growth. Now, instead of a single vine growing, there are 4 new vines that will produce gorgeous fenestrated leaves. Here's another example. This is giant Jose Bueno. The top cutting was taken, and essentially, since there is no main vine to continue the top growth, the plant will activate the lower growth points to push out new vines. The result is you get a much bushier plant. As you can see, new vines will begin emerging when the top of the plant is cut. So anyway, back to Laniata. You can grow a super bushy plant with giant leaves and many vines just by taking repeated top cuttings and orienting those new vines to climb. This plant will absolutely take over your life. If you are apprehensive about rooting top cuttings with thick vines, on my next video, I'll show you a foolproof method of rooting the nodes before you take your cutting. link that video in the description below. So, what do we have to offer? We have water-rooted cuttings with new growth, we have node cuttings rooted in soil with new growth, we have top cuttings in both soil and sphagnum with new growth, we have plants we're growing on trellises, we have giant vines as well. Now, all of those plants are pretty self-explanatory, but let me make one note regarding these large vines. First of all, you don't have to train them to climb. They are climbing all on their own. That's the growth memory. The mother vines that these were cut from have been climbing for so long that even the new growth comes out climbing. However, if the new vine is not actually gripping the totem, the leaves will not get larger. The aerial roots need to actually grip and climb for the leaves to get larger and larger. As you can see with these plants, the vine is climbing, but the leaves are not getting larger. They're actually getting smaller. That is because the vine feels it needs to search for something to grip, so it's putting out smaller leaves. Once the aerial roots actually grip something, the leaves will begin to increase in size. So when you get it, you will need to strap the vine to the totem and make sure that it climbs. We like to use these stackable moss poles, and that way you can add to them as your plant climbs. To make sure your plant actually grips the moss pole, you can take a piece of pantyhose and tie the vine to the totem. We like to use hose instead of twine because it's flexible and it won't squeeze the vine too hard. Now, the bad thing about growing plants indoors on poles is that they inevitably get wobblier as the pole gets taller. The plants will be top-heavy, especially with the huge leaves that this plant will eventually produce. But you can use something as simple as command hooks and pantyhose to make the pole more sturdy. Simply tie some hose around the pole and attach it to the hook. Command strips leave no residue and don't damage your walls. It's also easy to reposition them as your plant grows, or if you need to move your plant to a different location. You can also get clear hooks if you don't have white walls. Now this vine is interesting because it has a strip of sport variegation on the newest leaf. Do you guys remember several years back when there was a debate on whether this dress was white and gold or blue and black? Well, I was wrong. It actually turned out to be blue and black. But we're having our own debate over this leaf. I personally believe the variegation is meant. I see light green with speckles of dark green. Dave believes it is yellow, like an aria. What do you think? I will say it does look a little different when I turn the camera light on, but I still see mint. So is it mint or is it aria? You'll have to make that determination yourself. In any case, all of these plants will get giant whether they are node cuttings or top cuttings. Just keep in mind, the larger the mother leaf is, the larger the new growth will be. The size of the mother leaf determines how fast your plant will get giant leaves, but all of these will eventually produce giant leaves. As you can see, this is a super fun, easy to grow plant. You can grow it out to an insane size, and you will absolutely love watching it put out those humongous, show-stopping leaves. Plus, you'll have plenty of cuttings to share with friends and family. And all orders include a free cutting of Round-Form Adansonii, so you can enjoy watching them grow together. Get yours today on our Etsy shop.